Hi, Nancy.
Hi there. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good.
I'm here with Nancy Weinman. And this episode is brought to you by Western Window Systems. They are a custom aluminum door and window manufacturer that specializes in moving glass walls and giving architects and designers the indoor-outdoor aesthetics in their residential projects. And also their commercial projects. They have done a couple commercial projects, so I just wanted to add that into their little spiel there. Um, Nancy S. Weinman is the owner and principal architect at Weinman Architectural Services, a boutique architectural and design firm with offices in New York City and Sedona, Arizona. She is accredited by the National Council of Architects Board with a career that has spanned over 40 years. Nancy is also a certified construction manager and served as an adjunct professor at New York University for over 7 years, where she taught several courses in construction management. During her career, Nancy has been the recipient of AIA awards as well as an International Lighting Design Award and has been published by Rizzoli, Interior Design and Luxe magazines. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you.
How are you today with the weather?
Everything is good. It's a little hot, but not muggy here. So I'm sitting here in Sedona, Arizona. It's usually beautiful looking out the windows, but I got to tell you, my exterior of my home is being painted, so there's there's plastic on the windows. So it's not exactly your normal day today. And it's a little bit cloudy, which is way unusual for here. So otherwise, all is well.
Okay. So are they spraying it or are
And
they rolling?
both. So it's a
Both.
two-step process. They spray it, and then behind it, they come with a fat roller and, get any crevices that the spray didn't get.
Okay. So what are your first recollections of experiencing architecture?
So it was very interesting when I moved out of New York to go to New Mexico for architectural school. I was first a cellist, in fact, and I went to the Aspen Music School, and I thought, wow, this is great. I want to go to college out west. So I actually started as a music teacher. My music teacher said, New Mexico would be great, and you're going to love the teacher and the orchestra. So I went, and I hated the teacher, and the practice room was not like Aspen Music School at all. There was no brooks to be seen. It was like in the bottom of the Performing Arts Center in a cell. So I went home and I said, this is not going to work. And my parents were like the opposite of helicopter parents. And they said, well, just figure it out.
Yeah.
So I went to MoMA to look at a Italian furniture exhibit. And after I saw that, I walked out and I said, well, that's it. I'll just be an architect. So I went back to New Mexico, and I knocked on the door of the Department of Architecture and introduced myself and said I was going to change my major. And I was very strong in math and art, so it just made a lot of sense for me. However, there were probably 3 other women in the department, in the class.
Mhm.
So one of the first exercises that we did in one of the classes was with the teacher, and he says, "Come on, you guys, we're going to go for a walk." And we're like, nobody knew what we were doing or what we were going to walk about. And so he goes, I'm going to teach you about architecture. So we go, okay. So he walks us around the campus, and he walks us like through a hallway, and he turns around and goes, so how do you feel? And we're like, yeah, we feel like, we didn't just say we feel okay, but he actually pulled it out of us. Like, how do you feel? Like, do you feel something? And then we would walk into an open space. How do you feel? So we went through this, and what we all realized is that architecture really does change how one feels. Like
Yeah.
we architects really have the ability to not only draw, but once the place gets built and somebody is walking through a hallway, if it's too narrow, it's going to feel a little claustrophobic. If it's wide open and it has windows, it might make you feel wonderful. So, how architecture makes you feel was probably my first introduction that said, wow, this is like it's when you're an artist, you do a great piece of artwork and it's on the wall. People can pass it. When you do architecture, people are forced to walk through it. So you affect people much more with your artistic abilities, whatever they are. So that was my first introduction.
I mean, that's great. That's great. And then of course, like with music, I think that a lot of people that play an instrument or, write music or somehow experience, and play music also kind of it's the rhythm and all of kind of like composing music
Yeah,
or
there's very many similarities.
Mhm.
Many times the building will be reviewed and commented on, and the reference to music is very common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rhythm and right.
Well, you have to
What are
find the
the
right
other things?
note, you have to find the right
Yes.
look, and
Yeah.
the lighting with architecture versus the vibratos or what you may be able to do with your instrument. There's a lot of similarities, definitely.
Hmm. Hmm.
And probably math is, the background of both of those.
Yeah. I'm not good at, I mean, they told me that I would be good in math if it was higher math, but I didn't have the algebra skills in order to get so
So I actually loved math. It was like kind of weird. Like even in high school, my friend and I would rush home and do our math problems first because we got so into it. And
uh-huh.
so I think that I just loved the whole problem solving aspect of math, which
Mhm.
now architecture is all about problem solving.
Mhm.
And it's maybe the answer is not always as apparent, right? It's not yes or no that you get it right, you get it wrong. But
Yeah.
we're constantly solving problems as we build out or design architecture.
Mhm. Are you good at step-by-step processes? Because that was kind of like what my I always tend to jump around with things instead of things in a step-by-step
Well,
process.
I
So that was
think
kind of like
that
what like for algebra, that was difficult for me to remember to like not jump ahead a step in order to
mm,
problem solve.
I would say that I am good at the step-by-step thing, and I think that is kind of the reason why I do construction management as well as architecture. I feel like architecture and design, it's almost like it's a circular thought pattern,
Mhm.
right? You're going around, sometimes you come back, you go towards the middle, you go to the end, and somehow you get this design done. But with construction management and all the other things that go with management, I mean, actually, I just finished 2.5 meeting with my client just on an Excel document reconciling his $3 million budget because we're finishing the job and we want to make sure everything's right. You have to have that step-by-step mindset to do that. So I don't know if I'm like split in half and it works on this end for the step-by-step, on the other end for the aesthetic, but it is kind of an unusual characteristic that I have that I can do both.
I think a lot of architects they do have that, but then sometimes more of us are or like write. I like to write. I've always liked to write, but which also is I think from that same part of your brain that will construct that. So a lot of times, and I'm left-handed, so it's like I think I'm stronger with writing skills, not necessarily verbal skills. I mean, I've become better at verbal skills over the years because, we have to present, right? So a lot of times
Right,
people are
right.
like, "Oh, how
Like
can
doing
you?"
the podcast right now.
Yes, yes. Or how do you get up in front of people? Like, how do you get up in front of people? I'm like, well, you just start. I mean, we start from school, right? So it's like we're always, right. And actually one of my friends, his wife, it was the first time that I had met her. And so she was talking about his verbal skills and how he can always like speak so eloquently. And I'm like, yeah, I said, most of us can. And I said, maybe that's the reason why I don't make a very good wife to an architect, right? Because I'm also an architect. So I'm just like, yeah, I can do the same thing. But she was just on. I said, yeah, he's always been like that. And most of us can, it comes from having to present in school, having to present our projects, then having to explain things to the client, having to explain things perhaps in front of a design review board or the planning commission, maybe in front of it, having to explain your thing in front of a plan reviewer,
So
kind of things like that.
I was very shy when I grew up, and I didn't really have the skills to do those sort of things. So that's actually the reason why I decided if I taught, and I ended up teaching at NYU, that I would then develop those skills. And I did it specifically so that I would get more comfortable standing in front of an audience, which, at the time was 10 to 20 students. And then I found that when I did go back to the office, if somebody asked me to do a presentation, I was much more comfortable with it. So I think if you recognize that you're not good at it, it's good to sign up for something where you can just work on those skills, because you just never know when it's going to be important and they come up. And even
Yeah.
though you can write it or you can draw it, I mean, even like when we travel, I'm terrible at languages. And I always tell people, look, if I could explain it in a drawing, I'm probably better than actually the words, because foreign languages are not my thing.
Many years ago, we went, I was studying in Denmark, and I was, my then boyfriend, who then became my husband, came over to visit, and we went down, we traveled around Europe together for a couple of weeks. But one of the places that we went to was one of our friends. Like, everybody in Denmark was living with Danish families, but everybody in Italy had their own apartments. So anyway, we went and we like stayed in their apartment while they were gone. And so one of the things is that she gave us a key. And apparently when the person had made the key, they had done it in reverse. And so we were trying to get into this apartment and we couldn't because the key wasn't working. But my ex figured out that it was reversed. And so then we had to go to a key shop and try to explain. And so what he did was he did a drawing, right? I mean, he does know some Spanish, which is somewhat similar to Italian, but it was really the drawing that he did, telling them like, okay, this is the way I need you. This is the way it is. I need it this way. And he drew it in reverse, and then they made it, and we were able to get it.
Yeah, so drawing is definitely an international language. We could say that, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's a good thing.
Yes. Yes. And that was in Florence, and you're probably going to tell us something about your trip, right, when you're there.
Actually, I did not pick a building from Florence because I thought it would be a little commonplace. But yeah, the trip to Florence was amazing, and most of what I saw was just bigger than I expected it to be. I just think you see pictures and you see things in books, and it's like you don't always get the scale from that.
No, you know what I was most impressed with from that. I think that some of the other things I probably St. Peter's, though, and I've told people again and again in school, when they give us the plan of St. Peter's, it looks like it's tiny, and you get there and it's like, no, it's like that plan, like multiplied by, and it's so fun. I'm like, why isn't there a scale on it? Why is there isn't a scale?
Well, but even if there was, I think when you actually visit a place compared to just hearing about it or seeing it, even the Statue of David, it's like you just don't expect it to be gigantic because you're not looking at a picture with the person there and the statue here, like you're just only looking at the statue.
Yeah, and you're looking up at him as opposed to like looking straight on. Yeah.
Right. So I would say like the Colosseum, I was like, wow, this place is gigantic, And the same with a lot of other buildings. And it's like, Well, I don't know. Was I supposed to check the scale beforehand? It was just like, it just seemed, am I getting shorter? The building's getting bigger? I mean, what's happening here? It's like huge.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just, it was very much in keeping with the whole, me being focused on what I was seeing and the reaction that I had, because the reaction that I was getting from these buildings was also gigantic. It was like, bigger than life, whether it's the Pantheon or what have you.
Yeah.
So I didn't pick those buildings today, but yes, it was a great experience.
Okay. And the food. I love Italian food. I'm not Italian, but it's like did grow up in Pittsburgh. So it's like I love it. I always like laugh. People are like, well, what nationality are you? I'm like, oh, I'm German, but I'm German and Slovakian. I said, but I don't like that. I mean, besides like bread and cheese, I don't like, I don't like greasy meats. I don't like sausage. I don't like any.
Right. Well, I'm actually going to Germany in like 29 days. So I'll let you know. But
I've been there. And believe me, I just don't. Yeah, I just don't like them. I don't like.
my girlfriend said lamb's lettuce was really good, and that you're guaranteed to lose 5 pounds if you go to Germany. So we'll see.
Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. So, what are 3 classic buildings that you like and why?
All right. So one of them is in my neighborhood in New York. All of Central Park South has just really developed into, Millionaires Row, Billionaires Row, whatever it's called. But when I grew up in New York, my Nana lived in 220 Central Park South, which has since been demolished and rebuilt. And she was on the 13th floor and had a terrace, and we used to go out and pretend we were like ice skating at the ice skating rink, because you could see it, but we weren't there. So it was like all these great memories. And then suddenly that building was going down and other buildings were going down. So now the amount of skyscrapers that are there when you're in Central Park and you look out is just like, wow, each one is more amazing than the next one. So I tried to, really think about which would be my favorite one, because I think they're all amazing. So I like 111 West 57th Street, and that one is done by Shop Art Architects, and it's the one that's basically, it's the world's thinnest skyscraper. So it's like the sliver that comes up. And the way they designed it is not, I mean, I'm not belittling them, but it's not so original, because it's based on the setbacks, right, that you can obtain by, setting back, getting more open space, the whole story. And so, but the way that they did it, I mean, I read one person that referred to it as almost calligraphic, like a calligraphy letter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's that graceful. And when you look at it, you're like, wow, is that thing gonna fall down? And who's living in that space? I mean, it just doesn't even seem so much like a building as it does, Cleopatra's Needle or something. So I love that building, and I love the fact that they use terracotta and glass and limestone. And I just think that it's a very delicate building for how large it is. And, back in the days when skyscrapers first came about, I mean, they were just basically big boxes that came up. And then this one is like, it's just the engineering that we can do now. It's because the glass can be so much larger now. And then when you see the apartments inside, which I haven't personally been into, but online you can see them. It's very similar to what I'm designing here in Arizona, where there's super high ceilings, wide open spaces. You have this glass front. You're maybe not looking at, Cathedral Rock here in Sedona, but you're looking at Central Park, and it feels even more residential because of what they've done, to the exterior to allow all that light in, and the true indoor-outdoor feeling that we strive to get here is not only well received there, but it encompasses like you looking over at Central Park. I mean, the whole enchilada. So it's like, wow,
Yeah.
it's just a big wow from the outside looking at it and from the inside looking out. So I think it's a great building.
Okay. I'll see. I wonder if Vishon Chakrabarti was at shop at that point. Do you know
I
if he was
don't know, but it
okay?
would be a good thing to look up.
Well, because I know him, so I could ask him. Maybe he can get us some photos. But
It's just like, how is a skyscraper delicate? Like, look at that. So I was very impressed by that. And the second building that I wanted to bring up, which I was just brought to my attention not too long ago, which is in your side of the world, is the Salesforce Tower in San Francisco.
Okay.
So the Salesforce Tower in San Francisco is Caesar Pelle's last building. And somebody told me that, that building is actually tilted, that, something's going on in the foundation. And I go, you mean like the Tower of Pisa? And they said, yeah, that's what's happening. So I thought, all right, my source was not exactly the best source. So I decided to check it out. And in fact, that building has probably, the deepest piles and a larger quantity of piles than almost any building in the Bay Area. So it is definitely not tilting.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah.
Definitely not tilting. And it's interesting because, people refer to it as looking like the London Tower that they call the Gherkin rather.
Yeah.
And it's just funny that they would, to me, it reminded me of the Lipstick Building in New York. And then it's like, it's just funny how they name these skyscrapers. I mean, if it was my building, I would rather it be a lipstick than a pickle, for sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I love lipstick, so I would be totally happy with that.
Yeah, so that's a great building, and I think it's it's added a lot to the San Francisco skyscrapers. And I actually was visiting one of my children, and they kept this wooden toy that I bought because I was into, we were all not about plastic in our age,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
okay, let's have wooden toys. So I have
Yeah.
this wooden pull toy. And it's the skyscraper, it's like 5 or 6 buildings of San Francisco, including the Transamerica Pyramid. And when you pull it, it rocks.
Oh,
So
that's
it's
great.
like, okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a reason to just think about the San Francisco skyscrapers because,
Yeah.
I mean, I was there during that earthquake, so we know how important it is to not live on top of fill. I think
The one in 89.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was only there for a year. It was actually the same day that
You were both of them, weren't you? And then you were in Northridge too.
yes.
You're moving.
But in San Francisco, it was the day that I received my architectural license, my California license. And I kept saying that was just a rocking day. It was like, in every sense of the word, that was the most important earth-shattering day.
That's so funny because I took my the oral exam the week after the Northridge. Wait,
Mm.
that's
And
when
the
I
oral
sat.
exam,
Yeah, that's when I sat for so that was in 94. Yeah. And I was working at a structural engineer and then like the week later, right? It's like we went. So with some people had not right, they'd been affected by it. And so one of my friends, like he had to help move his like ex-wife's parents out of their place or whatever. And so that was like what he that's what he attributed to not being able to pass the exam. I don't really
so that
believe that,
oral
but
exam
yeah.
was very difficult.
Yes. Yes. And
And
I went on to like help to write it. Later on, they asked me, like, I had to interview people during the process, and then I helped to write the exam after that. I don't do that anymore, but yeah, I did used to interview the people for it. And that was
well,
always
I would
interesting.
just say that when I took the exam, they asked things like, if you're an architect and you're on this job site and you see that something's wrong, what will you do if like the contractor won't listen to you? like indicating that because of my role as a woman, like maybe I couldn't like be strong enough. And so, although the question made a lot of sense because they were asking,
Yeah.
what are the tools that you have? Like, how do you
Yeah.
actually, get through this?
Yeah.
But I remember my late husband was taking it at the same time, and it's like, did they
Uh,
ask you what you would do if somebody didn't listen to you? And it's like, no.
so did they? Because that's when they started to make them more of that there were a list of like set questions and then what the answers were and everything. And so the one that I gave, people had to hit on certain things in order to be able to pass. And then it was all recorded also.
Right.
It was all
Right.
recorded. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it did make sense to ask somebody that question because you should know if, who is the one in charge here? Is it about do you go to the owner? Do you go to the GC? Do you go to the sub? What do you do? Contractually, how do you deal with this?
Yeah.
So it brought
Yeah.
up, enough questions, but I felt like I would not want to do that again. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way. It was
Yeah.
not a fun
Yeah. Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. And they actually started to make sure that there were women on the panels where there were women candidates.
Yeah, well, there were none when I did that.
Yeah, no. There was one, and I have no idea who she was. I'm sure that she was probably somebody that I should know. But I know that she had on like this sweater, that one of those sweaters that had all the stuff going on in the front. And I just kept on looking at her
And of
sweater.
course, you remember this like 20 years later.
Yeah. 30 years. Yeah,
30.
because I got licensed in 94. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was crazy. Yeah. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
just
so I was licensed in 84. So yeah, but California was not my first license place because New Mexico
Mhm.
was. So but yeah, it was a little hellacious to get through that.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. No, it is. It's kind of funny. Yeah,
So
it's
the
kind
third building that I
of okay.
picked, I decided not to do a building that's a typical building
Okay.
because why not shake it up a little bit? So I picked the Holland Tunnel. So, I
Okay.
mean, wait, excuse me, the Lincoln Tunnel.
The Lincoln Tunnel. I was like
The-
The
No,
Holland
not the
Tunnel.
Holland Tunnel, the Lincoln
Okay.
Tunnel. So the Lincoln Tunnel is really an engineering feat that's kind of like, it's, I mean, talk about how do you feel when you're in architecture? Like, how do you feel like it's anxiety ridden, right? Like, are you gonna get out? Is it gonna
Personally, it
explode?
is,
Is it
but
gonna
I don't
leak?
know, right? If you taken the channel, like I just like think like God, I wonder if I could even take the channel. I don't know. It's
The Channel, you mean from France to London?
yeah,
Yes.
it's a long time
Yes,
underwater.
I
Yeah,
did take that, but it's like you're on a train that you're not in your own vehicle.
yeah, yeah,
So there's like a couple of levels beyond like looking
yeah,
at those walls because now they're replacing a lot of the tile because of Sandy, because it was damaged. And so I read a little bit more about it, just in preparation. But prior to that, I was looking at that tile going, so why is that tile popping up? Is it getting wet or what is going on? But just, the fact that it's a mile and a half, it's 90 feet deep in the water. And it's these tubes that basically it was proposed in 1920s. So that's 100 years ago. And now the fact that it's like the most used tunnel anyplace is, I mean, architecturally, if it was standing up, it would be quite something, right? But I think we still get to call it architecture, even though it's in a horizontal uh
yeah,
manner, right?
yeah, yeah.
I think that that is a great architectural engineering feat. And for its time, it was pretty incredible.
Hmm. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So recently I had to do a talk on women that were project managers, construction project managers. And one of the first women project managers was the wife of the man who designed the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yes, Roebling, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And she only became that because he was ill. But, the basis of what became a good project manager is truly what she did, where she was just taking care of the books and the paperwork and the finances. And it's like that is sort of the nut of being a good project manager.
Mhm.
And yay for her that, this day and age, we do recognize her because of the efforts that she put in. So I
Yeah.
think it's interesting to just look at bridges and tunnels, as an architectural selection, because there's so many buildings around and it's like, okay, what building is she going to pick? Like, no, I'm going to pick a tunnel.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, well, growing up in Pittsburgh, right? We were in the South Hills, so we had to go through a tunnel no matter how. Either that or you go all the way over the top of the mountain and down in. So it was way easier but the tunnels aren't, I don't think they're not a mile. I don't think they're a mile long. I'd have to check with that, Nancy.
But the question is, do you feel differently when you're in a tunnel?
Oh yeah, no, exactly. And
Right?
then that's kind of the thing, like you explode out, right? You explode out of the
Right.
tunnel and then there's the city view. And so people have said that that's kind of like their best recollections of Pittsburgh is like coming through and then going over the bridges. And then, I mean, right, you're coming out of the tunnel and all of a sudden like there's the bridge, but then the city behind it, with the rivers and everything. And so you're kind of elevated and then you kind of go down into the
And so
city.
like a lot of architecture is like that also, where you come into the entry and us architects on purpose keep it maybe a little bit tighter until you get to the destination, and then
Mhm.
you want it to explode and open up. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think that, just looking at tunnels, bridges, and buildings together and what
Mhm.
they do to you and how they affect you as a person,
Yeah.
I think it's just very much exaggerated when you're in a
Yeah.
tunnel.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
want to get that feeling, go to a tunnel.
So I don't mean to sound stupid or anything, but is that where we got like subway tiles? Like why were they called right? Is
Well,
that
yeah, those were used in the subway a lot. And they're
okay? So
very
was
similar to the one in the Lincoln Tunnel, but I think that's because they were the cheapest source. I mean, a lot of things are established and become popular because, it's like Arizona and stucco. Why are there so many stucco buildings? Because it's the cheapest way to do it.
yeah.
So that subway tile is probably, well, even today, if we go shopping for tile, isn't that still pretty much the cheapest tile?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's if it's more popular, I think it gets a little bit more expensive.
No,
It's
but
like
that's usually
it's
because
not
they
as
indent it or they make
inexpensive
it,
as yeah.
they give it more
It's an
dimension.
expensive as like dowel tile squares, right? Is what I typically use in my own matte white tiles, like 4x4, 6x6 is like typically use the 6x6, 2x2 on the floor. Yeah,
Right, but
yeah, but
still, like the
yeah,
plain white.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and I think they were probably produced a lot. Like now we have
Mhm.
a zillion choices in tiles, right? There weren't that many choices way
Yeah,
back then. So
yeah,
that
yeah.
was basic tile. And, now like I use probably a lot of large format tile as my
Mhm.
sort of base, and then I build up and do more interesting things off of that. I think that the subway tile was used as a base,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, what do you like about being an architect?
Well, it's kind of interesting because your podcast is called, I Never Met a Woman Architect. And I think that a lot of times when I tell people I'm an architect, one of the most common things I get is, oh yeah, I always wanted to be an architect. Like there's so many people that say, oh yeah, I really wanted to be an architect. Yeah, I'm so sad I wasn't an architect. And then I'm like, yeah, do you know what it takes to become like it's grueling. It's like worse than becoming a doctor. It's like you have to do so many years of apprenticeship and so many years of studying, not to mention, the oral exam we were just talking about is the epitome of
Yeah,
everything.
the
But
licensing
it's like
exam.
it's
Yeah,
a very grueling thing that you have to be. I mean, for me and for you, like we've only been an architect. We didn't like do architecture and change to cooking and come back, or like we were just an architect over and over because it takes
yeah,
so many years. I mean, I've got 10 years over you, but it's just like you never will ever know everything.
yeah,
So the
yeah.
best you could do is be a good researcher and find out, where to get the information. But
Hmm.
my favorite part is like it is art, it is aesthetics. We do have to apply the math piece to that so that it all works out. We're always dealing with numbers. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think too many of us can add in our head now, but I'm sure we used to, right? Same way we used to know all the phone numbers in our head because we'd have to be calling everybody all the time.
It's a round number. I can figure it out. It has a lot of zeros. Yeah,
A lot of zeros.
that helps me.
And
Yeah.
and then at the end of the day, not only do you affect people by your builds, but at the end of the day, you have something very tangible that you can go back to and say, I mean, even in my neighborhood, I have like, oh yeah, I did that house. I did that one's under construction. And you
Mm,
can go there and visit it. And it's like the accountants and the attorneys, I mean, and the doctors, they can't really do that. They can say,
yeah,
here's my healthy patient, but they're gonna go away. Our buildings are there and
yeah.
they're gonna be there for a very long time.
Hmm.
So I like that, what you're working on is like kind of a forever thing,
Hmm.
certainly in our lifetime, right? We can
Yeah,
always go back to all the buildings that we've designed and built,
yeah. Unless,
assuming,
I mean, there are some that get torn down. I mean, one project that I I hadn't worked on them. My late ex-husband had worked on it. But it was the Zanuck residence with Richard and Lily Finney Zanuck. And the person, she went to sell the house, and the people that came in, they totally raised the whole thing.
well, yeah,
And I
that's,
mean, especially when it's something that has so much like time and thing. And I mean, Mark asked her like, hey, I mean, he's like, oh, I'm like so sorry. She's like, no, I mean, her thing was like, well, no, that was from a period in my life with that husband, and he passed away, and like that part of my life is gone or whatever. And she was kind of like much more. Right. I think we tend to be more emotional about it than maybe our clients do. I mean, at least for her, and then she kind of
probably.
moved on. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. And it's not like I go out searching for things that I was involved in a long time ago, but like even the Macy's stores, because I spent, a chunk of time, like 6 years building Macy's stores. And when I
Mhm.
hear that they're going out of business or they're, being changed over, it's like, oh, it was like so many times of, so many phone calls, emails, meetings, everything. And
Yeah.
then it's
Yeah.
like, woof, you know.
Yeah.
But
But then
most
what does it
things,
become? Right. Like the Spree building in Hollywood, in LA. I mean, it was like, concrete, and it was like this great building. And now it's a CVS pharmacy. You're like, what?
yeah, that's not so good. Right,
Yeah.
that's not so good. But certainly right away it's tangible. Like I'm finishing
Yes.
up a
Yeah.
project that happens to be the adjacent lot from where I live. And it's like, I've known my clients for now 3 years and
Hmm.
they're gonna be moving in, and it's like I can just kind of point at it and go, yeah, like, I was the one that developed that with them. I was the architect of record.
Yeah.
So, that's very fulfilling when you have that. Similarly, if you have a great project and for some reason it doesn't get built, that's it's not like you failed. It's just like, oh, it's like a baby that wasn't born. Like, oh,
Yeah.
we wanted to
Yeah.
see that. We wanted to touch it and feel it and live in it and walk in it. So just that, tactile, tangible part of architecture, I think is more fun than a lot of other businesses that people go into.
Yeah, yeah. And I think there's some architects out there that they don't, maybe a lot of their work isn't built where I think with you and I mean, like, I feel like I always want to see the project. Like, I just don't want it to be like this paper architecture. I mean, paper architecture
Right.
is fine to like draw or paint, but really, I mean, if I'm working for a client, I want that project to be built.
You want it to come to fruition, and you want to also be able to go, well, yeah, that really worked. I'm going to repeat that. Or
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is like maybe not so great,
Yeah.
or maybe it's good for them, but it wouldn't do that for the next house.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because a lot
Yeah.
of things that I think are given to us, or people say, like, I ask questions, I have a questionnaire, people answer them. We put it on paper, and then sometimes we change it, and they go, well, why are you changing what's basically your idea? I said, because this reflects what you asked for, and you needed to see it before we really massage it and change it. Because that way we're designing again together, as opposed to you
Mhm.
give me your qualifications and I go, well, forget about that. I'm just going
Yeah.
to do what I want. So
Yeah.
I want the client to be very involved, and that emotional part and bringing people through the process of the design and construction. That's at the end of the day, that's what makes a successful project. And if you
Mhm.
don't have a successful relationship at the end of the project, sorry, it could be really beautiful, but it's never going to feel good.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, also, we're designing for a client. So if a client is, it's if they're interested in using some material, and I'm like, well, I don't know whether I would have done it exactly like that. But and sometimes it works like, wow, I'm like surprised because I maybe wouldn't have put those things together
Right.
or done
That
that.
happens. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And, but then sometimes it's like, when you're showing it and then it's, sometimes it can be very personal and it's funny because some clients will flat out like, oh, I don't like that. And I'm like, well, we don't have to do that in your house. We
Right.
can do something,
Or like
we
I'll
can do
tell
something
people,
different. Yeah.
yeah, I'll usually tell people at the beginning of the project, it's part of my job is to keep you from your worst decisions.
That is a good
Like,
one. Yes.
if I see a bad decision, I'll let you know because you don't want
Yeah.
to leave that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
so
did
then
do,
they
yeah.
appreciate that you just have to be frank and go, well, I love that material too, but in context with everything we have here, it's 100% wrong. Trust me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then that you get this relationship going where the next time they're going to say, so Nancy, what do you think? And that's
Or, yeah, yeah. I have a client. He when we were walking through, he goes, Michelle, if we were going to do this again, right? He specifically used we. If we were going to do this again, he goes, I wouldn't put the fireplace so high. And I was like, Roger, I didn't put the fireplace there. And he goes, I know. That's why I'm telling you, if we were going to do this again, it's just, I wouldn't have made that decision. I'm like, okay, good.
right. So yeah, sometimes you have to keep people out of their bad decisions, but then some people are
Yeah.
just set on they really want something, and it's their house, So the only thing I can tell you is what will blend well with it, what won't blend with it. And but it's very much a relationship job, and
Mhm.
you get far away from the aesthetic and the math, and it's so our job really encompasses a lot. Like,
Yeah.
it takes a long time to become an architect, and we have a lot of hats on.
Mhm.
And for me, I think that, creating a program like I'm doing, mentoring people to understand how many hats it takes. And, you can't just get into this if you're really good at math. I mean, you kind of
Yeah.
have to be a people person, and you have to have a good aesthetic sense. And so it's kind of interesting that, especially in residential design, that there were less women architects.
Mhm.
Don't you think? Because like a lot of homes, like I'm actually staging a home for a developer, and the house was done by my competition, a man. And it's like you walk in and it's like it's too masculine. Can you help me out here?
did have a person ask what they said, did you pick all of the finishes for this house? And I said, no, actually the husband did. It wasn't even the wife. The husband picked a lot of it. And they said, yeah, because it's very masculine. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's what he wanted. That's kind of like what he wanted. And I mean, it works and stuff, but it's like, yeah, it's a little bit, maybe a little bit more
Like edgy.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like edgy, like I probably wouldn't have done. And I mean, he sold that. He sold that house. He doesn't even live in it. But the people that came in, they bought, they bought everything. They even wanted the art on the walls, but he wasn't. I mean, I don't think they realized how expensive the art was. But, but they even wanted, they bought all the furniture and, which I was like really surprised because I'm like, gosh, why, furniture is like so personal. And
Yeah.
and my architectural photographer didn't even like the furniture in the place. Like, oh God, we can't stand the furniture. But I'm like,
But
yeah,
see, it's
well,
an emotional thing also
yeah,
when
yeah,
somebody buys a house, like I was showing my client, it's like, well, you need this because women love this stuff. And so I go, if you're going to sell the house, you need to be able to speak to the woman. So you need to have some certain things where whether it's good linens or potpourri or whatever it is, it needs to exist. And he goes, oh, well, maybe that's why I don't have a girlfriend. Maybe you need to come to my apartment.
I mean, Nancy, I mean, we get. I mean, I know one of my friends. The people immediately they actually asked him to come in and they wanted him to do work on that house so that it would, literally so that he would be able to get a wife. And of course my friend was laughing because he said, yeah, it's like we were going to do this beautiful kitchen. He said, but meanwhile, it's like I opened up the refrigerator and it was just a bunch of takeout boxes. And I mean, so it's definitely like not really for him, but I mean, I'm doing a project right now. I mean, it's kind of the same thing, where I think that's really like what, is like, I really think that if this happens in this house, it's gonna be better for me. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, we'll work on that. But again, I was like saying the bed linens, I'm like, the bed linens really have to go in here. It's like, if you want me to
Right.
pick your bed linen, I will help you pick bed linens.
Right.
Even
So
though it is like a personal thing. And
it's a
it's like if
personal
you, yeah,
thing. But I
yeah,
mean that's what happens in our world is like we start and we're doing architecture, but before you know it, we're just right in there with a whole personal thing
oh,
because we're
exactly.
doing
Yeah.
a home where people are going to live. I always start by asking about habits and where they like to spend time and that sort of thing. But I think that's what makes our job so fun. I mean, it's not
Mhm.
really a job, but
Yeah.
you just get involved and you're like playing around with clients, helping them spend money and designing a house. And it's like, who wouldn't like that? But there's only some of us that, have the tenacity to stick with it and go through those years of, exams, apprenticeship, low
Mm.
pay, all of the things that we've all done,
Yeah.
to be able to sustain and stick with it. And it
Yeah.
takes a lot of tenacity, but even while you're there, it's like, then the fun does begin.
Yeah. And I mean, residential, it's like so many, even clients that have worked on other projects, but they've never done residential architecture, right? And then all of a sudden they'll be doing their home and then they're asking me questions about it. One of my friends, it's like he said, and he was asking like, oh, what about doors and window? And then I kind of just went through like all of these different things, that it's like you have to consider, because he's working on these big projects, and
Right,
like really isn't working on the residential scale. And his
right.
wife isn't, she's not an architect. And I'm like, yeah, there's like so many little things, and he was like, oh, what about interior door sizes, right? Like, so commercial doors are 7 feet tall,
Right.
right? Okay. And then he like asked like, oh, and he goes, well, these interior doors are so expensive. And I said, oh, uh-huh. And I said, well, yeah, I thought they were. And then he said like, oh, he goes, well, they said it's a custom order. And I said, well, what size is it? And
Yeah,
he's
he
like,
had
oh,
no
it's like,
idea what
yeah,
was
he had
custom and
no
what
idea
was
what it
not.
was. And I'm like, and he goes, oh, I said, yeah. I said, well, that's if it's 7 feet tall, it's a custom door.
Right.
And I said, pretty much, I mean, there's so many things that are like custom anymore, right? I mean, you do a pair of 2.0 by 6.8 doors and it's custom anymore. But where it was standard before, but I'm like, yeah, but definitely, I mean, 7 feet, it's like, yeah, I mean, that's
I mean,
definitely
look, I think
custom.
we could talk forever about just the relationships with clients and then the amount of detail. Like I have a client that, just thought it was very easy to go to a marble slab guy and hire him and tell him to put the slab on the wall. And it's like, there's this whole world called interiors where we detail things out so that the slab meets the glass, which meets the metal, which meets the ceiling. And it's not ever a perfect world. It's not like laser ready all the time. There's
Yeah,
inconsistencies because, it's wood.
because it's a natural material. Yeah.
Natural materials.
Yeah.
And then to assume that you could just do stick them, slap them, or whatever they call them, it's like, it doesn't work that way. So some people don't really even understand what it is we do and why things do come together and what's behind it. And then, so you have that whole piece, and then you have the piece of relating all of this to your client. Some of it, they don't need to know. They just need to know they hired an architect. We've got it covered.
Mhm.
And
Or
then when they
drawing
try to do
tile
it without
patterns.
you, like they figure out the part that was not covered.
Yeah. Exactly. Like tile, I mean, like tile, right? It's like, I'm like, well, you can't just like pick like some tile that you saw, it's like, I like to pick tile that has a ton of different shapes and sizes. I don't want to do, I mean, I'm not going to do it because they might sponsor my podcast, but I don't want to
Right.
use metal trim. It's like, I don't want to, on things. It's like, I like all of the different pieces. And people are like, well, what's the difference? Well, why can't I go with this? Well, why can't I do that? I draw, I draw it up and I'm like, okay, we're going to start here, in order for that. Or I'm laying out the tile at the job site so that the contractor can kind of, I'm like, yeah. And if a contractor, right, if he's good and he's done tile work before, he like says, hey, how do you want to finish this piece? Like,
Right.
we're going to have
where
this.
do you want me to start this? You have a choice of this at this edge or this at this edge. What's your choice? Do you want to split it? Do you want to, and it's like, those are the things that we just do in our sleep. Like, that's how we do tile, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
other people could just be, well, we just hired a tile guy. They put in the tile. It looks like SHIT, and we're not quite sure why.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
so I think it's just it's a very interesting world that we live in because there's always challenges and always personalities. And the end result, when you go through all of that and you can stand back and go, wow, that was a good project, or better yet, it gets published. Like I have a project that's going to be published next month that I'm very excited about.
Okay.
And
Yeah. In Lux, right?
yeah.
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 Okay.
And it's sort of like all your work, and it's like you can point to it, you can go visit it, you can go hug your clients, it's just, so we all love that, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that, I mean, a lot of people don't realize that we do interior finishes. They're like, oh, do I have to get somebody else to do the interior? I'm like, no, I mean, when we have we have a vision or it's their vision and we're trying to like bring everything together. And so I do think, and that's the way I was trained, I mean,
Well,
at the
because they go
residential
together.
architecture offices. Yeah. The residential architecture offices that I worked with, that's what we did. I mean, we drew all of the interior elevations, with,
So
all of that,
when
what trim are we using,
so when people ask me about interiors, this is the way I explain it, which I learned in the commercial world. So, there's expenses and there's capital improvements. And so that the way that was explained to me is very appropriate for interior design. I said, if you take the house and turn it upside down, whatever doesn't fall out, I'll design. But if you're asking me to pick your couch with you, that's not going to happen unless you hire me to be your true interior designer.
yeah.
But as the
Yeah.
architect, anything that's sticking to the walls, and that's the tile or the fixtures, the sinks, like, yeah, that's my gig.
Yeah.
And so it's good because people, they get that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You know,
And I mean, if
you
somebody
want to talk,
wants,
like, you want to talk to me about a lamp, like, for 4 hours? Like, I don't think so.
you know what I don't like? Like this shades. Like I'm like, you know what? You'll ask me what shade. I said the only shade I want to see is like, right. Is white or off white. Or I said I don't. I want a shade that you don't know is there. That's the type of
Right,
shade
right.
maybe some filtered light coming in, maybe not. I said, I don't want any stripes or it. So with one of my projects, the client, she said, "Oh, Michelle, do you want to weigh in on this shade?" And I'm like,
No,
if I come over there, I said the one that I want is not going to have anything on it. It's not going to have any of these stripes, these wide
right.
stripes. It's like
Pom
nothing.
poms.
No. And I said the only type of drape I want is either like a real velvet drape with something, or I said just sheers. I said that's the only floor to ceiling sheers is like the only thing that I'm ever gonna be. I said,
Right.
and in my own house, I said I don't have anything. I mean, the only room, I mean, even in the bathrooms, the only bathroom that we have is a bathroom that my brother was right, and he put up a shade in there because he was going on about how he was tall and he thought that the neighbors were going to be able to see him. And I'm like, you know what? Otherwise, we have nothing, we don't have any window treatments up.
Right, right. Well, I think as architects, we tend to decide on some basic things that go with the architecture, and we don't want the architecture to become secondary. We want to enhance
Exactly.
the architecture with
Yes,
the interior.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
even this house that I'm staging, like, I appreciate what the architect did. So I'm selecting things that he would want to see because it extends and enhances the architecture. I'm not trying to put a pattern on top of like a wonderfully finished, ochre looking wall. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
no, that needs a ochre something or other to enhance it, like it belongs here.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of advantage for somebody to select us to be the architect, and then we do some of those finishes.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it makes it one comprehensive program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So, what would you like to say about the future of architecture?
so I think that um the future of architecture is a little bit enhanced, I think, just by us going through COVID. Like
Mm.
when COVID happened, everybody kind of went to their desk and their laptop in their home. And there's still a lot of that happening. So in the meantime, we're seeing cities, parts of Philadelphia, New York, where the infrastructure is falling apart. And yet people aren't gonna just like next year start working in those buildings again. So I think that there'll be a movement to something else which will be less central. Now, if that's going to be like a multifaceted, like nodes instead of a
Yeah. Yeah. Like more
actual
like neighborhoods or
center,
something.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
neighbor, but I do think that people do need to get out of their box. I mean, it's a little, I see, my own children like working at home, and it's like, this is not really a good social situation. It's not social at all. And so I think that we will become social again. And I
Mhm.
think that there'll be more emphasis on, building better housing, more environmentally correct development for health, as we know, taking into consideration light, the more light, how the windows are placed. I do a lot of that here in Arizona because the sun is so hot. So just keeping in
Mhm.
mind when you're designing where the heck is the north, south, east, and west. So I think that we'll be smarter, and we have all of the digital capability, which will be a good assist for us.
Mhm.
And I think the world that we started in, like we were talking about a little bit, I think there really will be more women in the business than there has been. I mean, there's already more graduates, but like in the construction industry, it's still not really where it should be. And I'm sure that in the future that will grow. but there's a lot of challenges for us to do, whether you and I are doing it or the next generation will do it. But I
Yeah.
think that the typical city that we see closing down, whether it's San Francisco or Philadelphia, it's so sad, but it's not going to come back just like that.
Mhm.
So, how are we going to do it? What's it going to take? I mean, it's really a planning question, maybe more than an architectural question. But I think that women will be involved, technology will be more involved. But we haven't even figured out like who we are, like what's our identity, like what do we need? I don't even think we know that yet.
Yeah. I'm surprised. I mean, I went to an AIA function several months back, and I saw a person that I actually used to help write the architecture exam with. And she was kind of like, oh yeah, it's like, well, now that we're, well, yeah, we're starting to come out of COVID. And I'm like, what do you mean we're starting to come out of COVID? Because she had worked for these government offices, and so she's been in her house like for this, and she doesn't have any kids, so it's like I was just like, oh my gosh. And she's my age, and I'm like, I can't even imagine like being in my house for, even though I work out of my house, I can't imagine like just being in my house and not going anywhere for like
Right,
that, right? Because we, right, unlike, we get to go out to job sites and we get to
right.
like go in. I mean, I like to socialize, and it's like I will go to some, but we went to, this function was at an office, and um there was nothing on any of the desks. Like the office was fairly new as far
Mhm.
as like but there wasn't anything on anybody's desk. And I
That
said like,
nobody was
oh,
working there.
yeah. And I said, well, are people working there? And they said, oh yeah, but it's like they can sit wherever they want to. Which I'm like, you know what? It's like one of the things that I really enjoyed about working in an architecture, and nobody had even shown up to this happy hour. And so this is like a happy hour. They've been asked to come into the office to go to it, and they didn't show up to it. And there were all these photos on the wall of like the people that were supposedly working there, but there was like nothing. It was an office with nothing in it. I
Wow.
mean,
It's
all of
almost
the
spooky.
office furniture, yeah, all the office furniture, but you can just tell that it wasn't, because when we worked at offices, right, everybody had like different things, right? You'd have all of your, you'd have sketches that you had up on your wall in your cubicle. You'd have like little models of like build it, right? Like one of the things that we did at Appleton's office is that everybody, if they went somewhere, they would come back with like a little building from that
Right,
era, and then they would put it up on top of the cubicle, and you would have it,
right.
right? All of those like little personal touches. With this one, I mean, it had a kitchen space. I mean, I was laughing, and I said, you know what? I said, I'll come in here and work. Like, I have no
Right.
problem. They had this big outdoor deck with these big sliding doors. And I'm like, gosh, I said, I couldn't even, I would probably be lonely. And I think it
Right,
would be
right.
lonely.
But I mean, a
It's not,
lot, like at least for us, we deal with clients and so we have meetings and we talk to people, even if it's on Zoom or whatever.
yeah,
So there's a
yeah.
social element to that, but there's, people that are not going to come back to the office and so and they're having less children. So I don't
Mhm.
even know if we've identified what we're going to be looking like 10 years from now. I mean, it would be, I'm sure some think tank is studying that, but I think
Well, yeah.
that
The
rather than
Rand
saying what
Corporation, I'm sure. Yeah.
rather than saying what I think is the future, I just think that I think there'll be more women. I think there'll be more women in construction. I
Mhm.
do want to, I am starting a mentoring program so that I can teach women how to be comfortable in the construction place, just because
Mhm.
when I say I've done that 10 years ago, trust me, I was the only one. Now, at least, there's probably tag teams for these women. They can go find a friend, but I was the only one. And so that will be a big part of it. But I don't know if we really defined what our future is going to look like.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that a lot of young women, because they've kind of always had the opportunities. I think that they kind of, they take things for granted, and but so they don't think that they ever have to kind of like um be their own advocate, right, in the workplace. And I mean, could you kind of expand on this mentoring program? Even though I hear from a lot of women that they want somebody to mentor them, but like I've kind of said, like one of, a couple of my male colleagues said like, oh, can you mentor the people in the office? And I said, yeah, I'll mentor it for like my hourly fee. And they're like, what? Like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, it's my time and it's your office. I said, these aren't even my employees. So it's like, why would it's not like I'm going to put it underneath my overhead or something that I have to
Look,
explain
we
things.
wish we could, if we didn't really need to make a living, it would be really nice to be able to just say, yes, this is what I do. It's part of the program. I'm being paid by, some large God company, and I'm just here to give you encouragement. But in fact, it should be a paid service. But the question is, what do we have to offer? And how can we really help people that, women that are first entering, whether it be architecture or construction management or construction supervisors, whatever they are. And a lot of it is not similar to what we've talked about. A lot of it is not just the nuts and bolts of what we do. I mean, that's important. You really have to have a good knowledge base, and you have to know what you know and what you don't know, so you can go look for the answers. But I think that part of it is almost like, playing golf or tennis. When you walk in, it's your first shot, and then people are gonna like look at you and respect you, or they're not. And that could just be how you walk the walk.
Uh-huh.
And I think if you're a believer in yourself, then that goes a long ways. And I mean, I'm actually learning how to play golf, and many times I go to the driving range and it's man, 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 me, man, maybe a woman, possibly, And I go with my girlfriend, she's like, oh, there's too many men, I can't do this. And it's like, well, I don't really have a problem with it, but I think it might be because I worked beside men my whole life, so it's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
so it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with the situation more than they are. So, but just helping people in a fun way so that they can have fun with it and not take it too seriously, because it's not that serious. It's really still about getting the job done and solving problems. And, sometimes on job sites, we have to remind people like, oh, do you remember the point is to get this done? Like, we're not just here to talk about it. Like, wait, we want to actually be complete.
Yeah. Or being able to say like, oh, well, it's like, well, I don't, maybe you could come up with a detail for that. But I'm like, yeah, there is a detail for that. It's right here in the
Right.
drawings on sheet S. Yeah,
Right.
and well, yeah, okay. It's like, yeah, I do know how to read the drawings. I put the drawings together, and then this is what I said. I'm not going to tell you how to read the drawings. I'm not going to tell you, yeah, how to build
Well,
it. I said, but I will reference that maybe you should be looking at those. Yeah.
so when I was teaching how to read construction documents for NYU, my elevator rep showed up. Like, he's the one installing the elevator. I'm like, oh no, this could be a real problem. You just told me you don't know how to read the documents.
Yeah, yeah. My contractor wanted to know if I could teach somebody that was on somebody that was working for him how to read drawings. And I said, oh, why? And he goes, oh, because he's like he's interviewing for a plan checker position. And I'm like, okay, so I'm supposed to be teaching him how to read drawings that he's going to
So
be
he
like
can plan
reviewing.
check your drawings? Right, no, it doesn't like. So yeah, there's a lot of information that we have to carry. There's, lots of training and lots of information. But I think that, digitally that will be assisted, and the amount of people that are working on it, the type of people that are working on it are gonna change. But quite honestly, I'm very curious, like, what will this world look like? I mean, where will we be hanging out in 10 years? I'm not sure I have that answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about
um,
or bring up?
I just wanted to thank you for asking me to do this podcast for you
Oh, thank you
and
so much.
with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And thank you for Western Windows. We love Western Windows. We do a lot of windows out here in Sedona, and because the views are knockout.
Mm.
And Western Windows, great window. We're very happy with that product. And it's been a joy. And I hope to chat with you a little bit more another time.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I mean, I saw you on Instagram and I followed you and then I sent you a message and kind of talked and then we like said, okay, let's do a podcast because I just love the mentoring that this mentoring program that you're talking about and so follow Nancy. It's Nancy, is it Weinman Architectural
Services.
Services?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
On Instagram. And I'll have her photos of the of her buildings and the tunnel and and uh and her contact information and everything in the show notes for the podcast and also in the blog. So make sure that you guys check out the blog because there's always a lot of information. I also write a lot about about different things in the blog about the subject that we're talking about in the podcast.
All right.
So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Michelle.
Thanks. And thanks to Western Window Systems.
Yes. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.